You press that one. Stay out, that's all right.
Hey, Dominic.
Hislop, Maudlin. Merton, slightly happier.
Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Dominic West. In the news this week, at 11 Downing Street on the day of the pre-budget report, there's a rare TV appearance for Alistair Darling's cat. At a euthanasia clinic in Switzerland, a new piece of equipment is introduced to lighten the mood. And after baffling British doctors with his incurable disease, a man who just can't stop talking heads abroad for specialist treatment. On Ian Hislop's team, an American comedian who once starred in his own one-man show called Pride, Prejudice and Niggers, based on Jane Austen's slightly less successful sequel. Please welcome Reginald D. Hunter. And with Paul Merton tonight is the Top Gear presenter who recently built a full-size Airfix model Spitfire for the BBC, which is now doing sterling service for the RAF out in Afghanistan. Please welcome James May. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Reg, what's this about?
Chancellor looking to see where the money's gone. No sign. Away with the fairies. Oh, that's the next government. There they are, the cabinet. Hello, George.
They're discussing having a meeting eventually one day about some stuff.
Yeah. And that's the previous cabinet. No, that's poor children. And I think before that it was rich children.
It's this week's pre-budget report, which in my house we talk of little else this week, of course.
It's incredibly depressing. It means more tax for everybody, above every income level, and huge spending cuts, because we're in debt to the scale of Zimbabwe plus Weimar Germany.
So what did he decide to do to the bankers in the end, darling?
Very little, sweetie. Having said they were going to have this swinging tax, they've got having a one-off 50% premium on anyone over 25,000. So, yeah, I mean, it's punishment, but it's not going to raise that much money, and it's only once.
It's not all bad news, though.
Yes, it is. If you could find one bit of good news...
What will you do? What's the forfeit?
I will lend you the entire reserves of this country. OK, what's the good news?
He's introduced a boiler scrappage scheme.
Oh, well, that'll rectify the debt. What's that worth? 25 trillion quid?
I don't know, but they're going to get rid of old boilers. So it's bad news for Margaret Beckett. Because she's just had a new Potterton installed. David Cameron spoke to a gathering of top financiers this week. Do you know what he had to say to them?
Did he say, don't worry about this tax, we've given you all this money, but you only have to give half of it back? Is that how it works? I may have made a complete arse of myself there, I don't know.
That's how it works, yeah.
Is that what-
Yeah.
No, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be a joke. I wasn't being serious.
But we're going for it was an original human observation angle.
Oh, sorry,
because
yes,
the
it
joke
was,
just fell to
actually.
bits. So we just doing the sort of like, oh, that's interesting. Yes, I didn't know that. And then nobody realised it was meant to be a joke, apart from this conversation we've just had.
Yes, it was.
And we would like to apologise to any bankers who are upset by any of those observations. And remember, your mood may go up as well as down.
Would you like to see how Newsnight handled the run-up to the pre-budget report this week?
Yeah.
So who will raise an eyebrow tomorrow as the Chancellor tries to balance the books?
They're like the mating dance of the great African caterpillar.
Which war broke out between the main parties again this week?
The class war.
The class war, yes. And what did Gordon Brown accuse Cameron of having?
His financial policies had been dreamt up on the playing fields of Eton.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was his joke. Apparently, he got Alistair Campbell back purely to come up with jokes of that calibre.
But I suppose you couldn't really be dreaming of tax policies on the playing fields of a comprehensive school because the Tories sold them all off before the last election.
There aren't any playing fields. There's the computer lab, where you can do Wii playing fields. Come on, kids, PE.
Alistair Campbell also joined in on his blog this week. Does anyone see what he said?
No.
He wrote...
We're very bad at feigning enthusiasm, we really are.
Nothing like the blogosphere. I wonder what they've said out there. I expect it won't be mad and mention Hitler very quickly.
He said they don't like it Upham. You're not even allowed to say what schools they went to without them bleating on about class war. Apparently Dave, Boris, Zach and co used to call George Osborne oik because he only went to St Paul's. Well, you can see their point, really, can't you? James, which school did you go to? Was it a girls' school or a...
It had girls in it, which is what made me turn out as well as I did, yes. It was a modern comprehensive, yes. We were the oiks. We didn't have any shoes.
No. We didn't have feet.
Well, no.
It's much better in America, isn't it, Reg, where they don't have this silly class nonsense?
Britain has a maturity that America doesn't have yet. America is still impressed with religion in a way that Britain has kind of gotten over a little bit. Right now, we got like a class and a half. It's going to take us another couple 100 years to get 3 classes, you know. So, yeah, it's a little different there.
I thought they just still relied on good old-fashioned racism.
Well, if a class system is what you use to discriminate against people who look like you, that's an advanced form of racism. Britain has racism, it's just not very good at it. Y'all give it a go, but I mean, you know, like, ginger-haired people. That ain't even a race. And, y'all lay into them like it's...
What evidence has been called into question a lot this week?
Is this the evidence of climate change?
Yes.
Well, the debate on that is over now. There were 2 sides to it, but now Sarah Palin has joined the debate, and she says that global warming is a sham. So it obviously is. She's from Alaska, and it's cold there.
Probably why she hasn't noticed global warming.
So that's it. It's all over.
Well, yeah, but the 35,000 delegates in Copenhagen seem pretty convinced by it.
Well, they should listen to a proper scientist like Sarah Palin. She's been studying climate change all morning. The whole thing's been made up, deliberately, by polar bears. They're up to no good. They're trying to get free passage south, so they're saying, oh, the ice is gone. So they can come and live here. It's all in the Daily Mail.
What's the Top Gear views on that, James?
Personally, I'm with Sarah Palin in that I, too, don't have a bastard clue what I'm talking about when it comes to climate change. I don't care, actually.
You don't care about the planet at all?
Not very much.
God, hanging around with Clarkson has really rubbed off. All I want to do is drive fast.
You see, that's the confusing thing, because you hear compelling evidence or compelling opinions made to sound like evidence on both sides. And so I didn't know which way to go. I took some ice cubes and I just left them outside for a little while. I decided I'm gonna have to get my own data, because I mean, like, after a few hours, they had melted, but not completely.
Yeah.
So my research is inconclusive to this point.
I did a similar experiment because I keep being told by people who have read The Guardian that morning that if the ice caps melt, that means there'll be more water in the sea, and East Anglia, which is coincidentally where a lot of this data is coming from, will end up underwater. So I put 2 ice cubes in a gin and tonic and waited for them to melt, but it didn't get any higher.
Will you send your data over to me later?
I think you take Reggie's work on a little bit further, because you've added gin and tonic to basically the ice cube method here. So I think that's a very interesting protocol.
Like that, though. I mean,
exactly.
One person, I mean,
you're standing on the shoulders of giants.
I am, exactly. I'm looking at it. But Heinrich Hertz, you know, he merely identified the electromagnetic wave, and then it was for other people to go further.
I was just about to say that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some real scientists working. It's not just people on The Guardian, is it, James, really?
No, but
I mean, there are people in universities and research centres who think that the climate...
Wait a minute. Before you go any further, what research have you done?
Exactly. Reg and I haven't done much, but it is a start.
We all do what we can.
Well, moving on, we're all doomed anyway, according to Who this Christmas. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? This is Back Home.
It's not a poet laureate.
It is,
oh,
yes.
Carol Ann Duffy.
Yes, indeed.
It's a poem about the 12 Days of Christmas. She's rewritten the 12 Days of Christmas, hasn't she?
She has, yeah. Do you know any of the lines?
No.
Should we play Guess the Next Line?
Yes.
2 turtle doves that Shakespeare loved, tur-tur, tur-tur.
Tourette's.
Endangered now by herbicide.
I beg your pardon?
Next line, I bought a magic goose from a jolly farmer. This one rhymes.
Well, the idea is they're very miserable. So is it, and then he turned into a self-harmer.
It's even better. It's this goose laid Barack Obama. I bought a magic goose from a maiden comely.
And she turned into Joanna Lumley.
Yes!
Thank you.
He's right. This is Alistair Darling's pre-budget report, which included a super tax on bankers' bonuses. Warning of an exodus of bankers, Stuart Fraser, head of policy at the City of London Corporation, said, "It's a bit like the transfer market in football. The talent will simply go." It's a perfect analogy, assuming the footballers in question have each scored a hat-trick of own goals, got their team relegated and caused the entire stadium to collapse. Britain's credit rating is one of Alistair Darling's major concerns. According to The Times, credit rating agencies currently award Britain an AAA rating, which means you look at the size of the debt and you go, "Ah!" Also this week, world leaders have been gathering in Copenhagen for the Climate Change Summit. Among those leading a protest march was Michael Fish, who warned that if we do nothing, the situation will get even worse and millions will die and lose their homes. Well, if that's what Michael Fish is forecasting, we can all relax, I think. Paul and James, here's yours.
This is the roundabout in Swindon, and this is Disneyland.
Disneyland.
The two places are magical worlds. You can't tell which one's which. That's Disneyland.
That's Swindon.
Is you sure?
Yeah, no.
That's Swindon. There's Swindon.
Yeah.
That's Swindon.
That's the mayor of Swindon.
What's he doing to the Invisible Woman? That's Disneyland again. Disneyland and Swindon are twinned together for a year. There was a local resident of Swindon, there was a competition. Tell Disneyland why your town should be twinned with Disneyland. And so she wrote something along the lines of the roundabout system in Swindon is such that it resembles the teacup little ride you have in Disneyland when you're going round and round. And my husband's very short and my name's Snow White. Something like that.
That's exactly right. She's called Rebecca Warren,
Yeah.
and she's a call centre worker, and she made a video comparing Swindon to Disney World. She beat literally tens of other towns to get the award. Would you like to look at her video?
Oh, I think so, yes.
You'll never be able to compare the place where dreams come true, but we may find a few similarities, even if it's just one or two. A short Atlantic flight and down a few country lanes, you'll find my little town, which is famous for steam trains. An ever-expanding town with a friendly village feel, with the best pubs around for a traditional British meal. We may not have a castle or the hot Florida sun, but we do sure have what Disney has. It's fun for everyone.
I saw Reg wiping a little tear away there. That was quite moving, wasn't it?
What does she win, Rebecca?
They get a plaque in Disneyland for a year that says we're twinned with Swindon.
And she flies to unveil it. According to the Daily Mail, a special Swindon exhibition will run next year at Disney's Epcot theme park. Although it's not known what the display will contain. So book early to ensure disappointment. What do you think might have been the key to Swindon's victory?
Being one of a very few entrants.
According to The Guardian, the judges made their decision in favour of the town without visiting. According to The Telegraph, Swindon's cultural highlight was that it was used as a backdrop to a 1994 Benelin commercial. Who was quick to turn the announcement to political advantage?
MP for Swindon?
Yes, South Swindon.
Oh. Did he claim the entire Magic Kingdom as a second home?
She said, I'm sure I could nominate 7 Tory councillors who could play the 7 dwarfs. Their budget setting is totally Mickey Mouse.
Amazing.
What did we learn from a Disney historian recently about Snow White and the 7 dwarfs?
That it wasn't actually true.
No, it was that it was going to be Snow White and the 9 dwarfs. The final 7 were chosen from a short list of 50, but they were...
Very short list. Thank you very much.
There were 2 who only just failed to make it. Does anyone know what they might have been called?
It's a sort of rather unusual names. A brainy or slouchy or something like that, or contagious, something like that.
It was Jumpy and Baldy. Can you name any of the other possible dwarfs?
Scabby.
Scabby. Loony.
Funky.
Junkie. He wouldn't have been...
Hardcore friend of Dopey, he'd be all right.
Other names considered were Sniffy, Lazy, Stuffy, Shorty, Wheezy, Burpy, Dizzy, Flabby, Goopy, Scrappy, Tipsy, Titsy, Tubby and Woeful.
Can I just put out as Shorty? It's one of the more desperate ones because surely there's 7 dwarves. I mean, how much more growth restricted is this bloke that he's picked out as Shorty?
I think Titsy's my favourite.
You've got your own reasons for that.
According to the Disney historian...
Yeah.
Yes.
Deffy was in the running.
Was he? But he didn't get the wake-up call? What happened? What happened to Deffy?
He said that a typical exchange would have been, "Are you going fishing?" To which Deffy would reply, "No, I'm going fishing." This is the news that the magic world of Disney has been twinned with the tragic world of Swindon. According to The Telegraph, when it comes to entertainment, Disney World boasts a nightly fireworks spectacular set to classical music, whereas Swindon offers Lorraine Chase in Sleeping Beauty. Even worse, she wakes up. The local resident who won the town the chance to be twinned with Disney World described Swindon as a town with a friendly village feel. It's fun for everyone, as her nose grew longer and longer and longer. It wasn't just Swindon celebrating this week. There was good news for the town of Douglas on the Isle of Man. Yeah. after it was left £11,000 in the will of Mr. Douglas, on the grounds that it shared his name. What a marvellous, generous gesture, hinted the mayor of the village of Hislop. And so to round two. Some viewers may know that I was in an American cop show.
What was it called?
It was called The Wire.
Oh, right, I must look out for it.
Yeah. It's not on anymore. Oh. So, in honour of cop shows everywhere, this round features the squad car of news.
Squad car of news. There was a story that I saw that on I'm a Celebrity, get me into it, get me out of it, I won't wear this, who's that, kiss my aunt, whatever it's called. They were starving far away from the nearest camera crew, and they found that in order to eat something, they ate a rat. And this caused a great deal of trouble at the RSPCA, because the rat was actually a vice president of the local branch. And despite us trying to get away in the car, he caught up with it and ate it.
Who were the two contestants?
There you've got me, you see, which is a rather ironic reflection on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of it, as I don't know who either of them are.
What sort of punishment could the two celebrities be looking at?
Is it the death penalty?
Or another series of I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. Whichever is the sooner. Perhaps they should be killed on the programme.
I'm a fatality.
Yeah. I'm a fatality, cut me down.
3 years in jail.
3 years in jail?
There you go, yep. De Campo, the Italian chef, was jailed for 2 years in 1998 for stealing guitars from singer Paul Young's home.
So easily they go from that to eating rats. It's a gateway crime.
What did Philip Schofield have to say about the whole affair?
What did Philip Schofield have to say?
Yeah.
Question that's often asked.
Yes. What did Philip Schofield do at this point? Did he... I don't even know what I'm being asked here.
You're being asked what Philip Schofield, who I barely know who he is, said about someone who I've never heard of, and a rat.
I knew there was a reason why I was losing the will to live, and you just got it in a nutshell. I don't know. What did he say?
He said the world has finally disappeared up its PC bum. Which is, by a strange coincidence, what the name of the officer who arrested De Campo. In other rodent news, does anyone know what this is?
Is it go-go hamster?
That's it,
It's battery-powered, and it runs around on the floor, but if you stroke it, it makes a noise.
Yeah.
But it's also poisonous.
Yeah.
What, deliberately? It's a must-have toy.
It's slightly more dangerous than a real hamster.
It is, because you can suck a real hamster quite safely, but this has got...
They'll learn to love you for it. They'll learn to love you for it.
Do it gently.
Do it gently. Introduce it. Don't
But this
just
has
go
got...
straight in. Start off with an ear.
The go-go hamster has arsenic on it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or antimony, which is very closely related to arsenic.
Yeah.
And there's more than the accepted proportion of it in the composition of its fur in its nose or its eyeball or something. So if your children stick it in their mouths, they at least go mad. I know, I've sucked one.
Yeah. So you don't have to.
Well, dizziness and headaches.
Yeah.
From Mr. Squiggle's skin.
But the makers are claiming that it's perfectly safe.
They are. They've denied all accusations. Why has this toy mouse been in the news this week?
Because it resembles an elephant?
No, it's not. It's been recalled by its distributors after a mother complained that instead of singing Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, it appeared to be warbling Paedophile, Paedophile.
A rousing chorus in a minute. No. Paedophile, paedophile, pedo all the way. Oh, what fun it... No.
Why has Nonja the orangutan become an internet star?
He's doing something hysterical in captivity.
Nonja's a she. She's been given a digital camera and the photographs are posted on her Facebook page.
Oh, right.
Is it her and her mates pissed? Not bad.
And another one?
She's not a wedding photographer, is she?
This is a new low for this programme. Photographs taken by an orangutan. Well, they run out of Prescott gags or something.
Do you know how Nonja was taught to take the pictures?
Non-existently.
By a giraffe.
Every time she presses the shutter,
Yes.
the camera dispenses a raisin.
So then, how was she taught to maintain her Facebook page?
That is true.
This is the two contestants of I'm a Celebrity who are facing animal cruelty charges in Australia after they killed and ate a rat. The two Englishmen could now face prison. Hang on, I thought that's what Australia was for. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's another one for you.
Well, it's rather simple, I think. It's the Queen has issued a statement during the week saying she doesn't want the paparazzi hanging around during the Christmas holidays and all that sort of stuff. That's basically what it is.
She doesn't want any unflattering pictures of the royal family as they go about their business.
A perfectly legitimate business of sucking hamsters.
Why is the Queen taking such a tough stance against the paparazzi?
Well, she must be a bit worried because she knows a car in front's being driven by a rat.
And there were other photos of the Queen, too, a while ago. Anyone remember what she was doing?
It was this coronation, 1953. She made Queen. It's in all the papers.
She was twisting a pheasant's neck.
Misplaced H.
I was gonna make a similar joke, but a different way. That's all right, man. Now you get on
No,
there, man.
after you.
Nah, man, you are on fire.
Despite not wanting to be photographed, the Queen has been highly visible somewhere else this week. Do you know where it is?
Stamps.
Yeah. And money. And money as well. Has she been to the theatre lately?
Yes, she has. It was the Royal Variety performance. She had to sit through an evening of acts such as Bette Midler, Whoopi Goldberg, Michael Bublé, X Factor winner Alexandra Burke, and Miley Cyrus from Hannah Montana. Wow. People say the Queen doesn't earn her money.
The winner of Britain's Got Talent, that's the whole point of that show, isn't it?
Yeah, but you become Queen. Is that how she won?
Yeah, I've never seen the end.
She won in 1953.
Yeah, she won it in 1953. Britain's Got Talent.
Oh, fantastic.
She played spoons.
What will the Queen be forced to do now every time she leaves the country?
Abdicate.
Take her passport with her?
Yes, she has to have her identity checked, according to the Mail, because new border controls, she will be compelled to give her full name, age, address, nationality, gender and place of birth to immigration officials, who will then check that she is not on a wanted list of terrorists.
If I was the Queen, I'd go out of my way not to have any ID with me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have no ID, I wouldn't have the crown or nothing.
And I would talk in a different voice.
Uh-huh. And I would turn up and I'd go, I'm the Queen, bitch, let me in.
Yeah.
What was revealed this week that Prince Charles has in common with Alistair Campbell?
They've both been on a Jeremy Kyle show. Under heavy disguise.
No, they both support Burnley FC.
Prince Charles supports Burnley.
Yeah. You don't believe me?
No.
Well, let's look at this entirely undoctored photograph to prove it. Must say I'd have thought he'd support Palace.
You too are on fire.
This is the plea for privacy from the Queen. According to the Sunday Telegraph, some members of the royal family blame the paparazzi for the death of Princess Diana. Others thank them. This week also saw the Royal Variety performance. In keeping with tradition, the Queen met the performers after the show, although when Her Majesty heard the words, "And this is Lady Gaga," for one horrible moment, she thought it was that mad aunt she'd had bricked up 50 years ago. Lady Gaga was formerly known as Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta, a fact which proved the perfect icebreaker for Prince Philip, as he'd once shot a German otter on holiday in Bavaria. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's another one for you.
Do you know who that is?
No. But I mean, I get in there, man, because I'm a team player, man.
This is a man who holds one of the highest offices in our country. This is the Speaker of the House of Commons. And that's his wife.
But one of the lowest seats in that car. What's she do?
She wants to be an MP. And she's been in the news this week because, unusually for the Speaker's wife, she's of a different political party to him.
Oh, OK.
He's a Conservative, she's Labour.
Ooh.
And... It ends better.
This could be a sitcom.
Or a tragedy.
Yes.
And then they have the wacky Lib Dem neighbour who pops in from time to time.
Anyway, she's been in the news. She's given a number of interviews. She's sort of outed herself and said, I used to get pissed all the time when I was younger. You can imagine the reporter's face. They just can't believe their luck. They said, so you want to be a member of Parliament? Yeah, I was pissed all the time, for years. And they said, really? And she said, yeah, cannabis too. God, I used to go home with anyone. She said that.
Shit, I might vote for her.
She said, I was an argumentative, stroppy drunk. I would end up sometimes at a bar and someone would send a drink over and I'd think, why not? And we'd go home together. I liked the excitement of not knowing how a night was going to end. It was all very ladette. I had no stop button. It was sometimes more like 2 bottles a night, except I promised John I wouldn't say that. Have I mucked it up already? What was the most interesting of Sally's many relationships?
There was one with a man who dressed up as a chicken.
Yes.
Yes. Really?
Yes. According to the Mail on Sunday, she had a lively relationship with a chicken wrestler. Do you know what she was called in political circles when she was in her 20s?
Yeah, the woman who shagged the chicken wrestler.
Sally the Alley.
I suppose it's better than being a dual carriageway, but it can't say much more about.
Not to be outdone,
Yep.
her husband, the Speaker, he's created a few headlines of his own this week. Can anyone tell me about the John Bercow Guide to Understanding Women?
Well, he wrote this book when he was an undergraduate, I think.
He didn't actually write it. It was written under his name. Do you know what his suggested pick-up line was? For the guaranteed pick-up line?
Oh.
There's an alley round the back. I'll see you by the bins.
His guaranteed hit was, if you're free later, maybe we could go back to your place and name your breasts. Would you like to see some footage of John Bercow getting annoyed?
Yes.
Yes!
Your reflections and thoughts on precisely how many people voted for me from my party are really of absolutely no consequence whatsoever.
I am merely reflecting many conversations that have been had in the chamber down below, that there are many people on the Labour side who voted for you to spite the Tories. Do you deny that that was an element in the vote? And a lot of people will find that slightly strange.
People vote for all sorts of reasons, and it isn't, frankly, for a broadcaster to instruct members of Parliament as to the basis on which they should vote.
Well,
I enjoy
that's ridiculous.
strong support from people in all sorts of different political parties.
We were out of time, but there was one more point he wanted to make.
Well, I certainly haven't had 8 minutes.
Well, you have. In fact, you've had rather more.
Well,
Yeah,
okay.
about 4 times.
Let me finish.
Briefly.
One question or something else?
Briefly, if you want to ask about the second homes allowance, you're very welcome to do so. The answer is very simple. You want to go?
What? Sorry?
Do you want to ask the question?
Yes.
Please, go ahead.
What is your intention as regards the second home allowance?
I have no intention of claiming a second home allowance.
That's why it's called the Speaker.
Man, I respect that, man. You can see him getting angry, but fighting to, like, be pleasant while in the midst of being angry. Just, my last girlfriend, I look like that all the time, man. I don't know why I forgot the bread. You have to be one way, but act another way. I don't know how politicians pull it off, man.
You smile, you bare your teeth. Did you notice that? He goes...
He had that look for a second, like if there wasn't no cameras here, I would slap the shit out you.
It's time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication, The Wire magazine. Sorry, it's the Cheese Wire magazine. News for cheese lovers.
Really?
And we start with, what dislike Gordon?
All people that on earth do dwell.
You said that like a man who's been waiting to say that for years.
The answer is even aliens dislike Gordon. This is the story that after 50 years, the MOD has closed down its UFO investigation unit. The MOD says it's received thousands of reports over the years, but none revealed any evidence of a potential threat to the UK. If only we'd had those UFO guys working on the WMD. Next, Professor F. Holstein guides you through the fascinating science behind what?
Hitting a cow's arse with a banjo. It's not as easy as you think.
The ploughman's lunch.
There's science? Ploughman's lunch.
This is from the Cheese Wire. The ploughman's lunch is based on the traditional snack of the average worker on a British farm, which, of course, these days is borscht and vodka. Next, what so Pope can get some rest?
Berlusconi not going to confession.
Is it The Devil Goes on Holiday?
The answer is midnight mass shifts to 10 p.m. According to Vatican officials, starting 2 hours earlier will allow the Pope time to rest before Christmas Day. Well, he can get a little overexcited and wake up very early. Next, if it's wrinkled and bluish, it's...
It's mine.
Too much information.
It's nearly always goat's cheese. Next, elf arrested for what?
Safety. Thank you, madam, but don't do it. Please don't laugh on your own. I know you've just thought of a joke that occurred to you some time ago, but it seems odd if you're the only one laughing. It makes people think I'm working you with my foot.
The answer is a dynamite threat to Santa.
Oh, I was going to say that next.
This is after a 45-year-old dressed as an elf whispered, "I'm carrying dynamite," into the ear of Santa. The shopping mall was quickly evacuated, but not as quickly as Santa's bowels. Next, is it sexist to say what?
Your Majesty.
No, apparently it's sexist to say you are like a trifle. This is a Liberal Democrat councillor who has been banded sexist for likening a female colleague to a trifle.
Yeah.
What, she's full of sherry?
Would.
Hundreds and thousands have been sprinkled up. Forget that.
So, the final scores. Ian and Reg have 3 points, but Paul and James have 4 points. But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition. Ian and Reg have this.
Let me just check now. The competition over, right? So I don't have to try all that hard.
What's he playing?
He playing...
Rachmaninoff.
We can't stop you. We can only hope to contain you.
Paul and James,
Yes.
you get this.
You never guess where I'm keeping the sugar.
And I leave you with news that in central London, disaster strikes for one internet user as his browsing history pops up on the screen. Outside a theatre in Brixton, there are suspicions that Girls Aloud may have made a slight faux pas with their choice of costume. And in Basra, everyone manages to keep a straight face as the goat turd vol au vent finally finds its target. Thank you, good night.
The Antares edges ever closer to Venus and to the truth about the mission. Defying Gravity is next on BBC Two.
True story. A woman came up to me in the supermarket on Friday. She says, I know your face, you're Ian Hislop. And I said, no, but I'm his brother. She said, you look just like him.